Live with your man DJ Miller, and I got one of the hottest DJs in the city, DJ Chucky. Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey guys, listen, we got a special show today, and when I say special, I mean special because one thing about me, and anybody that knows me knows I love bars, and I don't love bars, but I love grown man bars. So we're gonna talk more about these grown man bars, but Chucky, man, what's going on with you, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing, man?
I mean, you know I'm blessed, black, and highly favored, and I'm unapologetic.
Indubitably.
There you go with them big words again. There he go with them big words again.
Always, man. Always.
Man, hey, you know it's football season.
Football season, exactly.
Claim your team right now.
I'm gonna stay the Patriots.
You a Patriot fan?
I've been a Patriots fan since I was a kid, bro.
So
since I moved here.
So I'm not a Patriot fan per se. I'm still a fan.
Okay.
But I am a Bill Belichick fan.
Yeah.
I got a question. Is it Belichick or Brady? Who's responsible for the success?
Belichick. It's always the coach, bro.
See, that's why I like you. This is why you got a job, bro.
It's always the coach, bro.
I like
always
you.
The coach.
Okay, what else we got going?
18 different people. Him and 18 different people was charged with the RICO.
That's 41 indictments.
That's 41. And then on top of that, the funny thing I found out, one of the guys who actually invented the RICO law is also charged with the RICO.
How you wait a minute. Time out. The person that's charged, the person that created the RICO charge
yes.
is being charged with the
Trump.
RICO charge.
Yes.
We live in America. I can't make this up.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up, man.
I'm just trying to see, how does this man have 41 indictments and still walk in the streets?
You got that's all, that's America.
That's a miracle. We're going to talk more about this when we go pay some bills and commercials. Hey, shouts out to everybody that's got us downloading the app. Like I said, guys, stay tuned. We got special guests in the building. It's your boy, DJ Miller. I'm tuned in live with my guy, DJ Chucky. And this is Plug Radio.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. What does that mean?
Without a doubt.
Can you spell it?
INDUBIT. Wait.
Use the word can't spell. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Listen.
This is what we do. I'm trying to tell you. Man, but guys, thank you. Shouts out to everybody that got us downloading the app. Man, we're trending worldwide. We're looking at the numbers right now. I want to give a shout out to Georgia. Shout out to the Cali. I see West Coast checking in. Shout out to North Carolina. And shout out to Texas. See, everything is bigger in Texas, even numbers apparently. So shout out to Texas. So, hey, plug question of the day before we introduce this guest.
What is that?
Okay, because I'm going to put him on the spot when I ask this question.
Okay.
NBA Youngboy, is he the greatest rapper of this generation?
No.
Let me give you some context. In order to be the greatest rapper of all time, you have to look at stats.
True.
And no one is outselling that gentleman in his genre.
That is true.
That's where I want to go. But, hey, I want to introduce my special guest. Because, like I said, I like bars. And I like grown man bar. See, Chucky is this millennial. Chucky grew up on the young boy. Chucky grew up on PF Nuke, and shouts out to all those guys. I don't even know how to say their names, but shouts out to all them rappers. We would love to have you on the station. We would love to play your record. Shouts out to all of you. But when it comes to rap, I was excited about this interview because I felt like I could come in here right now and be myself. I could come in here and talk about the top 10 greatest rappers of all time, and somebody's gonna appreciate when I say Nas, Jigga, Wayne, Ross. I think they're gonna appreciate that. But without further ado, for today, the man, not legend, not myth, I got Khastro in the building. What's going on, man?
What's going on? How y'all doing this evening?
Man, blessed, black, and highly favored. That's my favorite saying. It's like my saying of the day so far. As you were sending your music in, and I was talking with my staff, and I said, finally, I can understand the lyrics. I felt some of the waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning while y'all asleep. I felt.
Yeah.
See, that's true.
Okay. Okay.
Man, Castro, how you doing today, man? Was it, how was the drive here, man? And I'm glad to have you here.
Drive was nice. I actually don't stay too far from here, so I didn't have to go too far.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. We had a guy come up from Miami last night. He was like, it was traffic, and I'm just like, hey, well, leave a little earlier.
Correct.
So we were talking a little bit offline, man. And for those who don't know who Castro is, who is Castro? And
So, Castro is basically a West Palm Beach, South Florida resident. I was born in West Palm in 1988. Castro is actually a nickname that was given to me from childhood, and I guess you can say, claimed it as my own during my teenage years. But originally, when I was making music, it was Ziggler Wiggler. So, me, my cousins, friends, we all thought we were our own versions of the Hot Boys.
Big T's.
Correct.
Baggy
Correct. All of that. Correct.
Headband. Air Force Ones.
The silvers and the golds and all of that. Soldiers and
too young.
Correct. Yeah. So I was always the goofy one in the clique, though. So because of how Ziggy would always do the skits, they were like, Cass is the skit man, because my original nickname is Cass. So as coming up, family would call me Cass, close friends would call me Khastro, and then everyone that was outside of the family, they would know me as Ziggy.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing music about late 98, early 99. And I was rapping at first, and quickly was like, you can't rap everything a cappella. You need a beat.
Right.
I didn't really know anybody that sold beats. I didn't know where. Correct. I didn't know where to get them, and I didn't have no studio money. So that's when the idea was like, well, why don't you learn how to make beats?
Mm-hmm.
So then I went. I have a brother that also does music. So I contacted him. I was like, yo, I want to make beats. Let's see what we can do. So then he was like, okay, he's traveling at the moment, but there is like a software, because at that point in time, it wasn't called FL Studio. It was Fruity Loops.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he put me on the Fruity Loops. So, I was making my little computerized beats, and, that's basically got me started on my journey. And as time went on, when I was originally putting out my music, people, they kept thinking I was in camp because of the name Ziggy. So they kept attaching me to Ziggy Marley. And I was like, no, I'm going to have to do something to kind of create my own identity, as it were. So I was talking to, certain family members, and they were like, well, why don't you just, go with your name, because your name is unique.
Right. So,
originally I was finna go with Cass, but then, it was a cousin who's out in Cali now. Shout out to Doniel. He was like, why don't you just go with Castro? You know what I mean? Because I know you don't really do the whole Cass thing. That's more of a family thing, but, your close friends and, us, we call you Castro. So I was like, okay, I'll go with Castro. So once I started putting out music again, then I came up with the dilemma through distribution, where there was like, okay, you need an artist name. And I tried to spell it with the C, but that name was already took. But then I was like, how do I keep the name Castro, but then make it my own?
Right.
So then, I'm like huge into history. So I know that before modern languages were using the letter C for the K sound, they would use either the letter K or KH.
There you go.
So then I was like, okay, let me spell it with the KH, because I really doubt anyone would spell it that way. So then that's how basically Khastro came to be.
See, I wish I had that. See, that was a great answer for me. And then I can also produce the record. And it seems like, we talked a little bit off air, but it seems like that's been your business model. Is that correct?
Correct, it is.
What made you want to become a 100%er? Was it just always finances? Did you want to increase your craft, your skill? What motivated you to do everything yourself?
It it originally started out with finances, but then kind of how you touched. We come from the generation where buy-in is a no-no. So once,
Big no.
yeah, a big no. So once I started, taking the craft serious, I was like, okay, I need to essentially make my own sound.
Right.
And the only way that you can do that is for you to get better in your craft and, go down a way that no one really has, done it before. Because like for me, production wise, real big influences is Manny Fresh, of course, but Timbaland.
Hot Boys and
Yeah.
that Cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
But specifically Timbaland, because I remember, see, right now during the interview, the name of the song escapes my head, but I guarantee that it was the one track he produced that had the Godzilla roar in the background. That blew my mind. It blew my, and because at first I thought I was tripping. So I went around, I'm serious. I went around the house turning off all radios, all TVs, because I was like, something must be coming on while I'm listening to this song. And then that's when I realized, when everything else was off, my mother's looking at me like I'm crazy. She's like, I'm over here watching my soaps and you're over here, like, how dare you? And I'm like, Mom, like, I have to do something because I hear something and I think I'm going crazy. She's like, well, hurry up, realize you ain't crazy, and turn my stuff back on.
There you go.
So, that's when I was like, okay, if Timbaland is able to replicate his own sound and do things that will literally have a kid running around the house thinking that he's losing his mind, I need to step my production game up. And that basically, took me to DJ Battlecat with his claps. Pharrell with, his just original ingenuity, Primo and Large Professor, Daz Dillinger, the name just goes on. And, I would just study and try to, take little bits and pieces and create my own sound with it, where eventually it, brought me to the sound that you have now.
Right. See, and I'm glad you really turned them famous.
Correct.
I mean, Janet, he teaching Mariah Carey how to sing. I mean, so things like that is just, I feel like we live in a world now where so much good music has been created. It's kind of hard to create your own sound, and everything nowadays is sampled, And what do you feel about the state of hip hop now? I know we talked a little bit about the NBA YoungBoy situation, just
really because of where we come from and were introduced to hip hop. I didn't really like it, because everything sounds and feels cookie cut. You buy a mold, you get a whole bunch of people, and you make all these people basically fit into the mold. But as I've gotten to interact with a lot of the younger artists and a lot of the younger audience, I see that what they're doing is essentially what previous generations were doing. The only thing is they're doing it their way. So it's like, I may not necessarily like everything that I hear, but I do respect it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, who am I to deny you your story when I'm doing the exact same thing?
That was great. Yes. And for a Saturday morning raising all kind of blank. She got these vinyl records. She want to play her Mary J. Blige. She want to play the Lenny Williams. She want to play the Aretha and all this stuff. And my dad was no better. This is when Beats Pills came out. The big speakers. Yeah. So he waking up on Saturday morning, R. Kelly, KRS-One, DMX, Jigga, Nas. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I've heard DMX What They Really Want from so many times. But so you're forced that, and I don't want to say forced now because I have a great appreciation for it, but at the time I feel like I was being forced. And then, my sister, she's in her 30s.
Mhm.
So she's a genuine millennial. So I'm listening to all of the 90s, early 2000s. And I'm not old, so I'm catching all of that. And then my own music now, and it's like, man, music was great back then.
Yeah.
And so you get an appreciation for all of these cultures. And it's what can hurt you is if you try to stay in that generation.
Yes.
In the hip hop industry, you have to adapt. And if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Encyclopedia for those who don't know.
And you would read about this form of music that, people used to, that wasn't the case with hip hop. So it captivated me, and as I got older, like favorite group of all time, hands down, Bone Thugs and Harmony.
First of the month, wake up.
And for me, it was like, I ended up becoming obsessed with the stories. How many stories can I get? So I would listen to Nas's story, I would listen to DMX's story, I'd listen to Method Man's story, Scarface, Snoop, Pac, E40, Trick. And even though everyone was speaking about the same thing in their own way, they all had a different experience. And that to me was the beauty of it. So once I was like, okay, let me see if I can tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's basically what started me down the journey of, this thing called hip hop.
So let me managing artists or developing artists or starting your own label or different things of that nature.
I have.
But it's hard.
Yes. Very much so. Yes, very much so.
Why is that though? I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I was in the same boat. You have these ideas, you have this wave, but then this generation of kids, man, they're different.
Completely.
Yes.
Completely.
I'm scared of them. I could be walking down the street tomorrow, today, in the next 30 minutes. A kid can bump into me and say, "Jit, you hit me." My bad, bro. No pressure. These kids will shoot you
Over nothing.
over nothing.
Yes.
So why do you think it's so difficult to work with today's society in the music business?
I personally think the reason it's so hard compared to back then, I think it was hard back then as well, but what I think is that back then the industry wasn't really involved in hip hop, as in the major execs. So the Sonys, the machines, correct. Where the industry for the hip hop, like the No Limits, the Cash Moneys, the So Defs, the Rockefellers, the Bravehearts, you name it. These were all companies that were ran by individuals that were tapped into certain communities.
Yeah.
Where, oh, you think you a knucklehead? I got somebody that doesn't want to rap. They're okay with me, pay them off a couple stacks and they will deal with you.
For sure.
Where it's like, I feel nowadays, because of the fact where it's like, okay, we don't necessarily have like that OG, as it were, where they're trying to get out of the hood and they're trying to take as many of us out of the hood as well, where it's like now you have these A&Rs and you have these execs where they're in the office and they're like, okay, we broke this act, he's not really doing much, let's put him on the shelf and let's just we're gonna send you down to like Birmingham, go and see if you can find some kid or whatever over there. If you have any form of sense, you may not be willing to do certain things that we want you to do.
True.
So that's where I feel that if you've noticed, as hip hop has gone on, it seems that more and more of the artists that are being broken out and becoming mainstream are becoming younger and younger. And I think that's on purpose, because if I take a 14 to 16 year old where I, dangle a certain amount of money in front of you and I'm like, okay, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, where under normal circumstances, he wouldn't do it, but because he's now found a way out of the hood, as it were, and no one else has that type of money, and he's wild and reckless, he'll do anything to obtain that bag.
Right.
Whereas you can't come to someone in their late 20s or their early 30s.
You got their mindset,
Correct.
everything.
I have morals, and these are what I stand by. So to me, that's kind of what I feel is going on in the state of hip hop, where it's like you have kids that basically is trying to do anything that they can to get out, because they know that music is an avenue that they can, get out. They've been noticed, and it's like, okay, my foot is almost in the door.
So you have a record here.
Always been into music that motivates, music that touches your soul, music that tells a story that it doesn't matter what age, what race, where you're from, anyone can hear it. So my thing was, I did my share of Shoot 'em Up and Bang Bang, and I was like, I wanted to, get to a point where I can not only tap in with this younger, but then also keep it true to people my age, where, like you said, we're into bars, we're into messages, so I came up with the concept where it's like, okay, I want to take it from the viewpoint of like a worker, a regular 9-to-5 worker, where he's like, okay, I'm a hustler, but I'm doing it in a way that normally doesn't get spoken about a lot in our community. So I was like, I wanted to take that approach and then hit you in a way where it's like there's certain sayings you'll understand it, because from individuals like Ice-T, we're used to 6 a.m. That's like a staple in our community now. So I was like, I want to hit you in a way where you're like, yo, he's really like coming for my head top, because he's talking about I'm up before 6 a.m.
I'm gonna tell you something before we get into it. Up at 2 a.m. to be to work at 3 when I was driving trucks. The hardest shift in the world.
Yes.
The hardest. Anybody that works that I call it the graveyard shift. Anybody that works the graveyard shift, I have the utmost respect for you, because like your body is trained to be sleep around that time. You've been sleep around that time your entire life. Now you're trying to get up and go to work and do a demanding job.
Shout out to all the hard workers out there.
Shout out to all the hard workers.
Shout out to them.
I can't do it. I will not do it. But man, we're gonna get into your record. I would love for you to introduce your record. Why don't you go ahead and introduce your record to Plug Radio Land?
So this is Principles and Motivation by Khastro.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's get it.
Therapy, Volume 1, The Admittance. But I am working on another project. They can find me on on Facebook with my government name, which is actually Castily Simius.
Okay.
On Instagram, you would find me under Khastro88, spelled with KHASTRO88. TikTok is my government name again, Castily Simius. YouTube, I believe, is my government name as well. And as far as music, I kind of just let whatever I feel be, what's next. Because the one thing I really try to do is because I feel like what's lacking is after everyone kind of experienced who Tupac and who Biggie was, everyone's trying to be the next Tupac and Biggie. Where it's like, I'm trying to be the next Chuck D, the next Ice-T, the next Scarface. Where these are lyrical giants in their own, tend to make music that gets overshadowed for the mainstream hits. Correct. So it's like, that's kind of where I'm trying to fall in. I want to make music that represents everyone, so You know, I have records that speak of, you know, abuse that goes in the household. You know, I have records that speak of, you know, people being molested. I have records that speak of, you know, being incarcerated. I have records that speak of substance abuse. You know, again, it's real life, and these are tales and stories that I feel that they need to be told.
Man, so listen, like I mentioned, and the message to be learned from here is this: you know, be you. You don't have to be somebody else. You know, if your music is this, create that music, but also create music that's going to be timeless.
Exactly.
And then know your history, because it doesn't matter what type of music that you're into. Every genre has history, and if you learn from the ones before you and you take messages from the OGs, I promise you, you'll be better off in your life.
Or innovation, man. Innovation.
And if you don't believe me, look at somebody like Busta Rhymes, who got the Lifetime Achievement Award. And he even said in his speech, he says, you know, for me to even be this old on this stage, getting my flowers still is a blessing, and you know. But the only reason why, because I was able to reinvent myself. I'm an OG, and guess what? These kids look up to me because I still can look like them. I still can, you know, come off approachable. And I think that's key, and I think that's why you've had the level of success that you're having, is because you're still maintaining your values, but you're also trying to stay relevant in today's music by doing your interviews, by picking the beats that you pick. I mean, that's tough, and most people won't do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, here at Plug Us, you know, we support you. We're going to spend this record for the next, you know, however many days it's going to take until we can help break this record, because that's what we do. We break records. And you know, we have a core, consistent fan base, and man, we just honored is the word I want to use with the relationship that we have here with you now. So, and before we get out, we're gonna play the record one more time live for these people, because I need them to understand grown man bar. So give it one more time, introduce your record, and then guys, we're gonna sign off here, and we got business to take care of. So I am DJ Melly Mel. This is DJ Chucky, and I got my guy Khastro here. Khastro, let's go ahead and introduce this record one more time.
So this is Principles and Motivation, again, by Khastro.
And stay tuned. We got Mike Smith coming up at the top of the hour.